You know, everybody that I've ever worked with is a part of my being here tonight to accept this award.
Audrey Meadows didn't say anything for 30 years. She smiled when she talked. In public, she thanked Jackie Gleason. She kept the honeymooners' magic safe. But she finally told the truth about Gleason in 1994, 2 years before she died. There was a man behind the laughs who wouldn't practice, whom no one spoke to for days, and whose moods made everyone nervous. The truth about the most popular couple on TV was worse than anyone thought. She was born on February 8, 1922, in Wuchang, China, which is a long way from Hollywood. The nuns who raised her were American. When Audrey came, they had already lived in China for more than 10 years. She was the youngest of 4 children. There were echoes of revolution, political chaos, and a society that was very different from anything in America all around them. During the revolution that overthrew the Qing government in 1911, Wuchang was a flashpoint. The area stayed unstable all through the 1920s. That's the place where Audrey has the oldest memories. She grew up with Chinese kids and heard Chinese music. For the first 5 years of her life, she never spoke English. In 1927, she came back to the United States. The family moved to Rhode Island, and her dad became the rector of a church there. All of a sudden, she was a little girl in a cold city in New England who couldn't speak the language. She had to start over with English, but that didn't take away her first language. Audrey could speak Mandarin Chinese very well. It changed the way she saw the world and made her more aware than most Americans. Being able to adapt became a skill that she used all the time. But life at home was never easy. Jane Meadows, Audrey's bigger sister, was already on the rise in show business. She was the beautiful one, the dramatic one, and the rising Hollywood star. In 1944, she signed with MGM and soon was playing with famous people. Audrey, on the other hand, began with singing. She had her own fire and could sing like a bird. She lived in Jane's shade, though. The similarities were painful. The competition was seen by many. They didn't always talk to each other, especially after Audrey married airline boss Robert Six. Jane didn't like that. Their relationship got worse over time. They got back together after Six's death in 1986. Fame couldn't break the tie they had with each other. Audrey became well known because of her singing. She sang at Carnegie Hall as a coloratura soprano when she was only 16 years old. She was good enough on that stage, meant for legends. After that, she joined opera companies in Detroit, Louisville, and Chicago, where she played lead parts in musicals such as Roberta and Anything Goes. But it was her sister Jane who pushed her to become an actress. Jane saw something unique about Audrey that other people hadn't. They had great comedic timing, charm, and a way of lighting up a room. She took a chance. She tried out for the musical Top Banana and got a lead part with Phil Silvers. Everything changed. It began on November 1st, 1951, at the Winter Garden Theater and ended on October 4th, 1952. That's 300 shows. Every night she stood next to Phil Silvers and played Betty Dillon, which required her to have great timing and a lot of energy all the time. The fast-paced show made fun of the chaos that goes on behind the scenes of TV. It was very important that she could sing, dance, and say the jokes perfectly. It wasn't easy to work with a giant like Silvers. He was loud, hard to guess, and always moving. Audrey did not give up. She learned when to be quiet and when to join in the fun. In the end, she called it her comic boot camp. She got used to his improvising and sped up to match his every night. That stress made her feel better about herself. She learned how to keep calm even when things were going too fast. She had proof by the end of the run, which is something not many young actors ever get. There was proof that she could handle being in the open. Proof that she was ready for anything that live theater could throw at her. That was important because TV was going to change everything. She went from the stage to the screen after Top Banana. She started working for NBC's Bob and Ray show in 1951. The show was only on for 15 minutes at a time, but it was full of silly skits, fake news, and bad jokes. It was fast, crazy, and not planned, but it was great for her. Audrey did more than just sing. She played different roles. She was a soap show star for a short time. She was giving a fake weather report with a straight face the next minute. The practice time wasn't very long. The speed was very fast. She did great, even though there was no safety net. She learned how to quickly change jobs and stay alive when things went badly. That quick thinking became what she did best. This is when Jackie Gleason became interested in her. At first, he thought she was too polished and pretty to play Alice Cramden, who is tough and doesn't mess around. She was on time, calm, and in charge of the situation, even when things were going crazy, which made him change his mind. She got a chance with this little comedy show. She grabbed it and wouldn't let go. But it wasn't easy at all. Audrey was just another young woman in New York trying to make it on stage or on TV a long time ago. There was a house on West 53rd Street where she lived that was too small for her. The late John D. Rockefeller Jr. helped pay for it. Small rooms with 5 women each were crowded with dozens of other women. They shared a bathroom and a closet that was stuffed to the roof. It cost $40 a week to rent and eat there. There was no privacy. Fame didn't work either. The dream was the same for everyone. Some of her housemates became famous afterward. Ginger Rogers, Katharine Hepburn, and Lucille Ball. Some of them disappeared into the city. They were never heard from again. Audrey did a bunch of different jobs to make enough money to live. The club would sometimes put on shows to get managers. She rented clothes sometimes just to look the part. There were laughs, tears, and a lot of turns down. But it was in that crowded brownstone that she found the toughness she would need later. The will to keep going. Being able to take a hit and still smile. You didn't even give Audrey Meadow a chance to say anything when she first came in to try out for the Honeymooners. Jackie Gleason killed her with just one look. He said she was too fancy, well-groomed, and pretty to play Alice Cramden. He didn't think Alice was very classy. She was rough, worn out, and mean. Meadows did not belong. He saw a woman who looked like she belonged in a cocktail bar, not a small Brooklyn kitchen. Meadows already knew a lot about the subject. She had been on Broadway and in TV shows, and she was sure of herself. But at that moment, it didn't matter at all. Gleason couldn't get past how she looked. He had a very clear picture of Alice. She wasn't a movie star and was a tough woman who had been through a lot. That hasty decision almost cost her one of the most famous jobs on TV. Audrey didn't cry about it, though. She went to work. She took off everything that made her look nice the next morning. After washing her face and pulling her hair back, she put on an old dress and stood for a picture that would get her a new job. It looked like she hadn't laughed or smiled in a long time. The picture was sent by mail to Gleason. He didn't even know it was the same woman he had turned down when he saw it. He slammed his hand on the ground and yelled, "That's Alice!" She had the part right away. At the time, no one talked about why the job had become available in the first place. Hurt Kelton, who played the original Alice, didn't leave because she was sick, as CBS said. She was put on a blacklist. Her husband had been in a May Day parade. During the Red Scare, people were very afraid, and that was enough to ruin both of their lives. It was enough for Kelton to feel guilty just by being around people who did vote. Her name was taken out of the credits. Audrey Meadows took on a job that was filled with political fear and quiet censorship. Getting hired was just the start. Meadows had to start over from scratch. There was nothing about her that fit the part at all. She wasn't good with people. She was beautiful and calm. So she began again. She looked at people in the street. She spoke differently. She even changed the way she walked. She worked hard to become someone Jackie Gleason would believe. The woman who had come in weeks before was nowhere to be found when she finally got to the set. It was so clear that she had changed that no one ever asked her about it again. But being in the spotlight meant being in Gleason's world, and there were no second chances in that world. Jackie Gleason refused to act out the part. There were no extra takes. There are no second chances. You only have one shot, in front of 50 million people. Meadows was shocked because she had just come from the show. She was ready for weeks of work. She only got one read-through at a table, followed by lights, camera, and pressure. A fake steak flew off the plate and into the crowd one night. She had to get better right away and keep the scene going. There was nothing to catch them in. Gleason thought that real humor came from chaos, not from practicing. He also didn't yell when something went wrong. He made you freeze. Gleason wouldn't talk to you if you messed him up or made him mad. Not for days or hours. He would get cold. The whole room was quiet when Gleason stopped talking. It got very quiet on stage, and no one dared to talk. It was a mental shutdown. Meadows said it was worse than any yelling to be quiet. It was hard to say when it would end or what caused it. You worked hard and hoped it would get better. He was in charge of everything like a king. Everything had to be okay with him. Lines, scripts, and camera views. Without his word, nothing moved. They couldn't change a word. There was no way for the actors to move. Meadows, who was very smart and talented, had to ask for permission before she could say anything. To stay out of his way, they practiced in secret in her changing room. Everyone had to walk a line to keep from setting him off. He liked it that way. It was a risk every day. Everything depended on Gleason's mood. He was friendly and funny one day. He was either quiet or livid the next moment. He would always show up in a different way. Meadows had to walk carefully around it, pulling off a charmed pose while also giving in. She had to keep the crowd laughing without being better than Gleason. The chemistry they had on screen came from stress in real life. Jackie Gleason always said something sweet at the end of the honeymooners' shows. He told his TV wife Alice, "Baby, you're the best," over and over again. Next, kiss them close. It seemed real. It seemed real. It wasn't, though. Audrey Meadow, who played Alice, told the truth after the fact. Jackie didn't really kiss her. Every single one of those kisses was fake. He would lean in close, tilt his head, and kiss the air next to her face. It was all done by the camera. Everyone was fooled, even her own family. Because the shots were so close together, the trick worked so well. He would wrap his arms around Audrey so that she couldn't see. He could make his face move just right. From the camera's point of view, it looked like their lips touched, but they didn't. There were strict rules about TV in the 1950s when the show was shot. It was touchy to kiss, but this wasn't just about rules, it was about honor too. Jackie and Audrey did their jobs well. They did what they were supposed to do, hit their goals, and never crossed personal lines. She told a story about her Aunt Christine one time. That's when her aunt told her, "Oh, darling, I think Mr. Gleason has a little crush on you when he kisses you like that." Aubrey had to smile and tell them. She said, "He doesn't really kiss me. That's just how it looks." No one in Hollywood thought about reruns in the early 1950s. It was still new to have TV. Nothing in their minds made them think that old shows could make money again. But Audrey Meadow had something else she could use. Ethel, her brother, wasn't in show business. He worked as a lawyer. He also did something that no one else thought of when Audrey got the part of Alice Cramden on The Honeymooners. He added something to her deal. That line said Audrey would get paid if the show came back. That wasn't something anyone else on the cast had at the time. Not even the show's star, Jackie Gleason. Everyone missed out when the old 39 shows started showing again and again. Audrey held on to her money. Over the years, those reruns were shown over and over on American TV, cable TV, and even TV across the pond. And each time, a new check came. It was more than just a few extra bucks. It turned out to be millions. Audrey made around $2,000 a week when she was filming the show. In the 1950s, that was good money, but it wasn't even close to what came after. People in the business started to talk in the 1980s. They thought that reruns had made her more money than anything else in her career. The bills kept coming due. She was still getting checks in the 1990s. No one else on the show was as lucky as she was because of that one smart sentence her brother wrote. Trixie was played by Joyce Randolph, who didn't make it. It wasn't in her deal that she would get residuals. The show made a lot of money when it was syndicated, but she didn't get any of it. After many years, she started getting small payments when old episodes of the variety show were found and shown. But most of the money had already been made. Joyce told the truth about it. She felt bad that she didn't have better support. Actors all over the world learned from her story. If you don't protect yourself early on, you could lose out for good. Audrey didn't depend on just one lucky deal, though. She was very smart. She ran a business at a time when women weren't supposed to. 9 years of her life were spent on the boards of the First National Bank of Denver. That made her the first woman to ever hold that job. She did more than just go to meetings. She helped decide what to do. That wasn't done in the 1960s and 1970s. That wasn't all. She also became an associate director for Continental Airlines. She did more than just sit on a board. She helped make the clothes that flight attendants wear. She helped make the airline's lounges look the way they did, and even worked on the inside of their planes. The company grew thanks to her ideas. A lot of famous people in Hollywood flew Continental because of her. Because the company moved its main office to Los Angeles, sales went up by 20%. She was more than just a face on TV. Behind the scenes, she was a force. Her personal life was also very interesting. Randolph Rouse was a real estate businessman who she married for the first time in 1956. The service was led by her father, who is a minister. The couple split up. After 2 years, they split up. Rouse said it was fun at the time, but being married to a growing star was hard. It made him mad to be called Mr. Audrey Meadows. Next up was Robert F. Six, who is the head of Continental Airlines. They got married in 1961 and stayed together until he died in 1986. It wasn't like other marriages. Audrey stopped acting to help him with his work. She became an everyday part of his work life. These places were their home: Beverly Hills, New York, and Denver. They worked together as a team. She didn't have any kids, but her 2 marriages showed 2 very different sides of her life. It is marked by pressure on one and balance on the other. Audrey was smart, even when she wasn't with other people. She asked Jackie Gleason to marry her on her wedding day in 1956. It said, "Dear Ralph, I'm really sorry, but I'm ending my marriage today." Engaged to Randy Rouse. Alice, with love. It was a great nod to their marriage on TV. Even though everything, she stayed close to Gleason for years, but there was pain behind the jokes. Audrey never told anyone in public what it was like to work with Gleason for many years. There was a smile on her face. In appearances, she thanked him, but it hurt her inside. Gleason could be very smart, but he could also be mean and hard to deal with. Audrey held that weight without saying a word. Not until she was in her 70s did she start to talk freely. It was in her emails and interviews that she told the truth. She wasn't angry. She told it like it was. Gleason was very smart. He was also mean. She didn't say anything for 30 years. She cared more about the show's history than her own pleasure. She did not wish to spoil the lovers' magic. She didn't want trouble. But she had to talk at some point. When she did, it made her story more interesting. She later said that working with Gleason was like balancing on a very thin wire. At one point he was very nice. One minute he was cold and far away. He lost his anger out of the blue. One mistake. The whole set stopped when he saw one look he didn't like. People moved slowly around him. Brooks had to guess how he felt before each take. He would sometimes completely ignore her. He sometimes told her off in front of the crew, but she never lost her cool. She paid attention, stayed cool, and gave the part of Alice Cramden her all. It wasn't easy to get that strong. It drained her. She had to deal with a lot of stress and worry about being replaced, and she had to keep quiet all the time. But she never broke. She made history on TV, even though she tried to hold back the weight of it all. She didn't want to get back at them when she finally talked about those years. She didn't make fun of him or insult him. She told the truth without being angry. She told me he was smart. She also said he was tough. Being honest with him wasn't meant to put him down. It was supposed to show how much the job really cost her. Even as she talked about the chaos, she kept her cool. Friends said she never said bad things about him, not even in private. She was careful about what she said. That's what made her story so strong. She didn't scream it, she just told them about it. The quiet truth she told was stronger than any loud charge. She didn't say anything for decades. It was frowned upon for actors to speak out back then. They had to keep a straight face, smile, and protect the show's brand. The network wanted the couple on their honeymoon to look great. She was afraid that if she complained, the crowd would boo her, and the studio would fire her. So she kept going. Not only did she keep the peace for herself, but also for everyone watching at home. There was a death in June 1987 for Jackie Gleason. His body was giving out, his voice was almost gone, and there was silence all around him. Being still. The phone then rang. The person on the other end was Audrey Meadow. Even though she hadn't worked with Gleason in years, they were still close. His wife Marilyn picked up the phone before she could talk to him. "Jackie, it's Audrey," she whispered into his ear as she walked over to him and held the phone to his ear. "It's Alice for you."